Hello and welcome to Dr. VGP Talk Show. Hello and welcome to Dr. VGP Talk Show that reaches 42 million households, including 2 million across Chicagoland. Spring is in the air. Quoting from a poem Fire by the renowned poetess Sharda Purna Sonti, grass and green trees live, so do flocks of birds, bees and beasts. Schools of fish in water salt, hugging fungi, mighty rock slimy, licking clouds the mountains high. With fun the broken shells and snails, crawling, creeping snakes and ants. Alive is the mind that dwells in man, in whom fire transforms. The blazing flames compete the time, leaving life history in piles. So well versed, the poem Fire resonates the guest we are going to feature in today's Dr. VGP show. Yes, words can inspire, thoughts can provoke, but only actions can help you reach your dream. Most of us believe in the American dream. We're here today in Chicago's Chinatown to meet a second-generation Chinese American who's living her dream with fire in her belly to transform lives, overcome challenges, and continue the family legacy of prevention, protection, and compassion. NICOLE Lee, the iconic first Chinese American alderman in the City Council of Chicago, representing the 11th Ward, the first Asian American woman in Chicago City Council, and the first Chinese American in the history of the Chicago City Council. Will she triumph in the upcoming April 4th City of Chicago Council's aldermanic runoff?
I've always believed in doing good in the world. I know that might sound cheesy, but it's true. From a very young age, I watched my parents get involved and make a difference. And they taught me the best way to create good neighborhoods is to just be a good neighbor. That's a lesson that's guided me throughout my work and my life. And it's what I've tried to pass along to my children. And when I was asked to consider serving our community as alderman, I was working for United Airlines, overseeing their social impact program globally. Now, giving up a job with global reach for one with local focus was a big change. But it was an opportunity I just couldn't pass up, because today we're making a difference in ways that people around here have never seen before. We're supporting community policing to keep our streets safe and get more officers out in our neighborhoods, while also addressing the root causes of crime. We're working to create stronger schools for everyone, with more resources and more choices to help students succeed. And we're investing in our infrastructure to make our roads, transit, and sidewalks stronger, so that we can support our economy and the people who live here. The 11th Ward is one of the most diverse in the city. If we can come together to get things done, there's nothing we can't accomplish. I'm NICOLE Lee, and I'm running for 11th Ward Alderman. I invite you to visit votenicolelee.com and join our team. Get involved, make a difference. Now is the time.
You can answer that question yourself as you watch the Dr. VGP Talk Show that features the iconic NICOLE Lee, the first Chinese American to be in the Chicago City Council. We have Alderman NICOLE Lee with us, the iconic first Chinese American in the Chicago City Council. Welcome, Alderman NICOLE Lee, to the Dr. VGP Talk Show that reaches 42 million households, including 2 million across Chicagoland. Thank you for joining us this morning during your busy schedule for the April 4th Chicago runoff. Welcome again, Alderman NICOLE Lee.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for making the time to come talk to me today. It is my honor. Thank you.
Alderman Lee, you're a proud product of the Chicago Public Schools. Briefly tell us about your growing up life years as a lifelong resident of Chinatown and Bridgeport.
Well, we're meeting today in the heart of Chinatown, where I grew up. I was born and raised here in Chinatown. I'm the fourth generation of Lees to live in this community. I could not be more proud to have been brought up here. growing up walking around on these streets, I always tell people Chinatown is like any other small town. Everybody knows everybody. My parents were involved in the community. And I was always, Jean Lee's and Teresa Lee's daughter. I didn't really have my own identity for a long time. And we couldn't really get into a lot of trouble. But I will tell you that it's a beautiful community, filled with family associations, with churches, with things for young people to do. And it's given me so much. And that's why I'm so dedicated to giving back to this community.
You have inherited, like you said, a rich legacy. Your father, Jean Lee, we all fondly call him as the mayor of Chinatown. And he has served the city of Chicago for over 20 years. He also served as the deputy chief of staff to Richard M. Daley. The development of Chinatown here has a very flourishing neighborhood of the south side of Chicago, has a checkered history from 1898 to 1940, with Sam Moy being the first mayor, if I may so call it, of Chinatown. And then in 1975, some of the marked infrastructure developments are the Chinatown Gateway, which came up in 75. And then we had later in 1980s, the Chinatown Square, and then the Pink Tom Memorial in 1999. Tell us today in 2023 about your Chinatown. What is the new developments? What is exciting here today?
I think what's most exciting is the evolution of our community in this city. The first Chinatown actually was on Clark Street.
Yes,
right? And then it moved further south. And our community has continued to grow and flourish. In fact, we're the only Chinatown in the entire United States that continues to grow. So in that growth, we've seen now we've been able to get the first Asian majority ward in all of Chicago. And Chinatown itself is rather landlocked at the end of the day. So, new development, I think naturally is flowing south and west. There's an exciting development going on just on the outskirts of Chinatown, the historic Hoyt building. There's a developer that has purchased the building to develop that into, I think, yet another very attractive place for tourists to come and give them another reason to visit Chinatown.
Exciting times ahead.
Very much.
Under your tutelage. Now, from a successful career as a banking executive to being United Airlines point man, the global community engagement chief for philanthropy and corporate social responsibility, your transition to being the first Chinese American alderman, creating history in Chicago City's 185 years. What was your driving force and inspiration?
To be honest with you, the driving force of that really was the opportunity to represent our community for the first time and to be a strong leader for the community. And I did some outreach from community members, and they were encouraging me to do this. And I just thought I could do a good job of this. I know, as someone who's committed to remaining in the community, I'm raising my own children here. There are a lot of challenges, and I've just felt strongly that there was a need for good, strong people to be on the council, and to be the first representative for our community was going to be a big task. And I thought I was up for it.
Commendable. You gave up one of the most best positions in United Airlines as a director for global civic engagement, an enviable position. As a single mother of two, you seem to be so committed to your community, and you have the baton of being the first Chinese American in the history to represent the 11th Ward. 11th Ward is really, I would call it as a royal seat. It's given birth to 5 mayors of our town of city of Chicago. Edward Joseph Kelly, we had Martin Kenley, we had Richard J. Daley, the senior, Michael Blandick, and Richard M. Daley. So Nicole, today you are the voice of our Asian American community in Chicago. How do you see Chicago being a sanctuary city, being an international melting point from India and Divantown to Chinatown?
One end to the other.
Yes.
I think Chicago's role as a sanctuary city is very important. Chicago's always been a welcoming city. We are the city of big shoulders and big hearts. And I think that we need to continue to do that, but that has to be done in a responsible way too, right? That has to include engaging the community to really understand how we best support these immigrants and refugees that are landing in our city.
You're absolutely right. Chicago's history as a self-proclaimed sanctuary city was done by an executive order by the then Mayor Harold Washington in 1985. And today, interestingly, your ward, the population mix is 37% white, 34% Asian, 23% Hispanic, and 4% Black. Now, how will you empower the communities and build coalitions to progress the 11th ward?
Yeah, absolutely. So with under the new map boundaries and effective in this next cycle, the 11th ward will actually have 51% Asian voting age population, right? So we are probably the most diverse ward in the entire city of Chicago. And I think the way we bring people together is to just do it, right? We have to listen to everybody. Every voice matters. And we have to show that with our actions too. I think that one of the most important lessons I've learned in the last 12 months is that people want to be seen and they want to be heard, right? They may not always get what they want, but having a voice and really understanding that you have a fair shot at something makes a very big difference.
You see, you have been an alderman from March 2022, nearly a year. I'm sure you must have seen the significant difference, like you just said, listening to the community, having one of their own.
Yes.
It makes a huge difference in the parameters of communication for you were saying 51% of the 11th ward is going to be Asian American. That's really indeed matter to be celebrated in today's world. And how do you see, you have seen at close quarters the needs of your diverse, as you said, 11th ward, and what needs to be strengthened. Tell us what needs to be strengthened in the 11th ward, and also tell us how will you strengthen the Chicago public school system in your ward. You yourself being a Chicago public school student, at the same time, you have a master's in public policy from one of the top 10 universities in United States, the University of Chicago. Incredible. NICOLE, tell us your plans for Chicago public schools.
I think we can't have a conversation about educational opportunities for our kids without having a conversation about what everybody needs. In the 11th ward, in the burgeoning near South region, we have had a need for a neighborhood high school for a very long time. You know, we've continued to grow, and it's forced a lot of families to make tough decisions about sending their kids to private school, or in some cases moving out of the city. And that's a really big challenge I think we have to address citywide. So while I am 100% for building a new high school to serve this community, we also can't forget about all of the other schools in the system, right? So there's at least one school where my constituents are mapped to from a neighborhood perspective that is under enrolled, and I think has had its own struggles. And I think CPS and the city council members need to work together to make sure that we're providing the kind of resources and really good strategic thought about how we lift these schools up.
You have hit on a very vital point. Educational is the cornerstone of any community. You know, to have an educated workforce in today's growing economic situation and strategic situation, and you are for a neighborhood school, that brings me to a point. You know, the mayor's race of city of Chicago is also up for grabs within the runoff of April 4th. What is your take on the two candidates we have, or who would you prefer, which will be better for the 11th ward of Chicago?
Well, I'm proud to have endorsed Paul Vallis for mayor, and he in turn has also endorsed me as his alderman because he's a resident of the 11th ward.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting. Fantastic.
I am his alderman now.
He'll be the sixth mayor, if elected, to be from the 11th ward. Right, my God, it's exciting.
Yes, it's very exciting. And I firmly believe that Paul Vallis is the right choice for the city. He's going to help ensure that we are fully resourced for public safety, that we begin to right the ship for public safety, as well as ensuring that we've got good educational opportunities. He's got plans for all of these.
Excellent. NICOLE, you have said it so rightly. It's going to be a historic moment on April 4th. Let's wait and watch. Now, we are hearing a lot of things in the mayoral race, as well as generally that Chicago's property taxes. I would say, what's your take on Chicago, on property taxes in Chicago?
I think property taxes are something that everybody's concerned with, but not everybody necessarily understands what all goes into it at the end of the day. And I think that with this last set of property tax bills that people have received, it's hit property owners very hard. My own parents included. Their taxes, their assessment and their tax bill actually went up 60%, 60.
My God.
And for working families and for seniors who are on fixed incomes, this is a very difficult thing. So I'm very concerned that, you know, people are going to be priced out of their own homes. So, you know, I want to work with my colleagues and with our counterparts on the county side to take another look at how we are assessing values.
No, that's a very good strategy. And I think you are one of the few aldermen who is able to study the matter and respond in a very strategic manner, because getting county along makes a big difference. You know, city council alone cannot address the property tax.
Correct, because the city's tax levy is a very small part of that. You know, the taxing bodies include the county and the city, and then you pay your own state income taxes. But the property taxes, most of that goes to the county, not to the city.
Correct. Alderman, the question that looms large in every one of our minds is, how will you reduce crime and prevent violence in your community?
I think the way to do that is we all have to do this together. The police alone can't solve this problem.
Absolutely.
One body alone can't do it. I liken our public safety challenges to a forest fire. We can't just bring a water gun to this, right? We have to attack it from above. We've got to attack it from below. We've got to try to smother this. So it means making sure that the police are fully resourced, that they have the funding that they need. And I fought for that and voted for the budget. And we got the police the budget that they needed.
Excellent.
We funded a record number of dollars to address the homeless issues, as well as additional police officers to patrol CTA, as well as violence prevention initiatives as well. So we've got to do this all around. Resources are important, but it's also important that we as individual residents understand our own role in that. And as frustrating as it may be, sometimes, or as scared as some people might be of picking up the phone and dialing 911, the fact is calls for service drive resources when it comes to police and safety. So we have to be able to make sure that if you see something happening, that we're saying something. Make the phone call. You can do it anonymously, but everybody's got at least that responsibility to be engaged.
Right. From what I hear and what I see, you're an action-oriented alderman. You acted on the property tax bill. You acted on increasing funding for the police. Now, you know, Chinatown is so strategically placed that it's usually known as a place for opportunistic crimes, because they can get away to the expressways. What is your comment on that, and how would you think of resolving that, or trying to prevent that?
We've been working really closely with the 9th District Police Department, the Chinatown Chamber of Commerce, our great neighborhood watch groups. You know, so I think working all together and collaborating, making sure that we're communicating with each other, whether that's having business owners give access to their cameras to the police department, they'll have real-time information about crimes going on, or, you know, getaway cars, so they can read license plates so that they can better track these criminals after they've committed these crimes. The other thing is just having presence. Beat 914 is the beat for Chinatown. There are 2 regular beat cars, which is the only beat in the entire district that has 2 beat cars. That's very uncommon, because Chinatown is such a big economic engine for Chicago. I think there's a recognition that, you know, we want to continue to keep this a safe place for both residents and visitors to continue to come to. So we've got an additional car here on the weekends, just for added presence. The Cook County Sheriff is also present with doing roll calls on a daily basis here. And really is just a combination of the continued good relationship with the 9th District and really responding to needs as they come up, and having really great open conversation dialogue.
You have said it so well. You know, the alderman is the most pivotal, powerful person for every to-go person in the whole 11th ward. And you have explained how well you are approaching this problem of reducing violence in a collaborative approach, which many other counterparts of yours have not done. You know, involving the community, the businesses, the local law enforcement, as well as the health professionals, thinking about the prevention as well as the protection.
Absolutely.
And could you tell me how you feel today as the alderman?
You know what? you called it a powerful position. I tell people all the time, being an alderman is not a glamorous job. I talk about trash and rats way more than I ever thought I would in my life. But it's a vitally important role because we are on the front lines. We're the sort of first line of defense when it comes to constituents who have questions or have issues. My main role is to connect residents in the ward with the resources of the city. You know, from a budgetary perspective, we don't have a whole lot to work with as individual aldermen. But, you know, what we can do is ensure that the resources that the city has are being brought back into the ward for the benefit of our constituents. Whether that is a small business with grants or a nonprofit agency with other programs and grant opportunities, or infrastructure. I mean, you name it, there's a way for us to bring resources back. And that's really, you know, my main task is to do that.
NICOLE Lee, you come across as a straight talking, easy to approach, down to earth human being. And it's your Chinatown and Bridgeport and New City is so fortunate to have such an all compassionate, consuming alderman today in the city of Chicago representing 11th Ward. You know, vested interests, and particularly one of your challengers has said that a statement which is very poignant, that it is not important to have an Asian American representative of the city council. Your comment on that?
It was very disappointing to hear anybody who's actually running for office to represent the first Asian majority ward to say that representation, Asian representation on the city council is not important. I think in no other time, right now, representation is important. I'll tell you one of the best things to come out of my time, for me personally, as serving as alderman, is meeting young people, young Asian people who are excited about me and excited that they have someone that looks like them reflected in this high office. Someone actually said to me, a young lady said, "Are you NICOLE Lee? Are you our alderman?" And I said, "Yes, I am." She said, "I learned about you in school." And that was just like a mind-blowing moment, to think that there are kids learning about me in school. Like I, as a child, could not have imagined a time where there would be an Asian American woman, a Chinese American woman from our community representing our community.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome.
So the issue of representation, I think to my opponent, I would say it's disappointing and it's offensive at the end of the day. Representation matters incredibly much, especially to those who have not been represented in the past.
You are absolutely correct. And that is most condemned, that your challenger, he may be a police officer or a firefighter, but what he discriminating and spewing hate against against the Asian American community by saying we cannot be represented in the city of Chicago is a racist comment. And that is a hate. It could be equal to a hate crime. Today, when the whole world is growing closer, when the gaps are being united, Chicago is known to be an inclusive community. And I think that should send a strong message, not only to the Asian Americans in your ward, but to others, that we have to elect, re-elect, and elect a strong Asian American woman like yourself, just because of that statement. You know, reading the reports, what great Global Eye and Dr. VGP's talk show to feature you, because we are in the role of empowering multi-ethnic communities. And we said we must address this issue today. How can somebody who is dreaming of running for office and representing people in the Chicago City Council make such a racist hate comment that there is not important to have an Asian American today in the Chicago City Council? That is condemned. And I think we all should in one voice stand together for a united Chicago, and that's what Chicago represents. Having said that, Alderman NICOLE Lee, because that's a very sensitive subject to us while we are growing up, and when the President Biden-Harris administration is doing so much for anti-Asian hate, anti-Asian American hate and their crime, and anti-Asian American violence. If you have somebody representing your ward with 51% who are Asians, it is totally a no. Would you agree with me?
Yeah, I agree. And I think that I think it was a really ignorant comment at the end of the day. You know, I can't say that I know my opponent well enough to say that he is a hateful person, but I think that points out to the lack of understanding, which I think fundamentally is the biggest problem, because he doesn't understand the experience of more than half of his ward.
You know, you have been so kind, like you are, as I earlier said, but that ignorance, if you are standing to represent people who are Asian Americans, how can you say it's not important to have Asian American represent you in Chicago City Council?
Yes.
Now, if elected on April 4th as the 11th Ward Alderman, what will be your top 3 priorities for the 11th Ward?
My top 3 priorities are going to be public safety first and foremost. The safety of our community is the paramount to everything that I'm standing for as the leader of the ward. That is my top priority, and I'm going to continue to do what I've been doing. I'm going to fight for resources for the police. I'm going to make sure that we're investing in violence prevention. I'm going to make sure that we are providing opportunities for young people too. And we're going to continue to work with community policing and the CAPS, and making sure that residents in the community are also playing their own role in this. We want to be able to have people feel good about walking around in their neighborhood and not walking around in fear. Second priority is going to be educational opportunities. Getting a neighborhood high school for our community is the next biggest priority. We need this school. We've needed it for decades, and we deserve it. Third priority is business development. We need to make sure that we continue to have thriving communities. So we have opportunities along the Halsted Street corridor, as well as Archer Avenue and 35th Street. So there are lots of opportunities coming up. The Ramova Theater revitalization should be done by the fall. I think that's going to be a big boon to bring more businesses in. And that's where we've got to really lean in and work with the Department of Planning and Development and others of these professional associations that have retailers that will hopefully look favorably upon coming into our neighborhood, the 11th Ward, and making it a very business-friendly place.
You have described your 3 priorities in such clarity. Public safety, number 1. 2, a neighborhood school for education is the backbone of any community, and business development, and to have a flourishing business neighborhood, not only in Chinatown, but on the end of Halsted Street,
corner.
Archer, and 35th Street. I mean, it's you are on the right track. You walk the talk. It's such a pleasure to have met you today, learnt about you, your values, what you have done previously, what has prepared you for the aldermanic role, what you have done in the last 1 year, and what you will continue to do for the 11th Ward. Could you describe yourself in 3 words?
If I only get 3, I'll go with I'm passionate. I am a good listener.
Good.
And I'm a bridge builder.
Fantastic. NICOLE Lee, your alderman and the first Asian American woman to serve the city of Chicago, the first Chinese American in Chicago's 185 years, describes herself as passionate, good listener, and a bridge builder. What more can you ask for? Thank you so much for being with us. Concluding, and could you give us your message to our viewers and to your constituents of 11th Ward?
I really appreciate the opportunity to have served the 11th Ward for the last 12 months. I've worked hard to earn the trust of the community and to show you what I can do. I hope that on April 4th, you give me an opportunity to continue to serve you for the next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you again, Alderman NICOLE Lee, for joining us. You're truly committed to empower our communities and forge ahead and build coalitions and to restore 11th Ward in its rightful place in the city of Chicago. Thank you so much.
Thank you.